Hey YouTube, welcome to my studio, still under construction. 10 months ago, Sora scared me. I was worried that if I wanted to have any hope of a future YouTube filmmaking career, video making career, I would have to sit in front of a computer keyboard and type out prompts. And that would be the way to go forward. And I did not want to do that. I still wanted to pick up my expensive ZVE1 that I just purchased, used, but still expensive, and shoot real people doing stuff and do it like they have done for at least several decades at this point. I did not want to sit in front of a computer typing out prompts, partially because I'm not very good at that. I can learn, but also, like, prompts, it's not as simple as you think. To take a page straight out of Google Gemini ad, generate an image of a cat playing guitar. But you think it's that simple, but oftentimes you have 100-word prompts with weights and all this stuff to tweak the image just how the person wants. It's not always quite as simple as the ad makes it sound. So, why is AI so controversial? Well, I kind of sort of understood it, but it really clicked in my mind when Andrew Huang made his video on the controversy behind his musically themed playing cards and the artist that he hired, which most of the images were created using traditional Photoshop, cut and paste mix elements from other stock photos and blend them together. There was some AI used. He might say, this is not something from Andrew's video, but he might be like, hey, I need a weird purple swirly tree. And then he would cut that weird purple swirly tree out of the AI generated background and stick it in with other elements. And people didn't like this. So why is AI so controversial when stuff beforehand hasn't been as controversial? Where is that coming from? Andrew touched on some of the music generation side, and then I did, or not generation, but creation on the computer. And then I did a Google search, and I read what Gemini had to say, which, yes, is AI. I don't fully trust Gemini, but it made sense with the little bits and pieces that I had heard. And essentially, with music, which I think computer created music didn't take off a lot until closer to the late 90s, early thousands is my guess. But essentially, a lot of artists weren't worried about computer generation or computer created music, even though it did in some cases replace the whole orchestra and a lot of other roles and producer type stuff. But also, some people possibly didn't like, some music creators didn't like, that the computer wasn't capable of having all of the fancy flourishes that pianists and people playing flute and all these other instruments can put into music. I don't know the right word for it, but I'm sure you've heard them at one point. And early computer music creation couldn't do that. But it's come a long way, and when we're talking generation stuff, AI generation, I'll get to why, but I'm less for that. But actual putting individual notes into a computer and synthesizers, stuff like that, I'm totally fine with. Now, what I know more about is video. I did use Gemini to confirm some of my rememberings, and there was some pushback when editing started becoming more digital. There was worried about it being less quality, not looking as good, especially when digital cameras started taking off. There were concerns about it replacing certain jobs that had existed, but ultimately it made new jobs. And this, you can go back probably as far as ancient Rome to even find stuff like that. I know several years ago I was talking with family about the big thing. What do we do in the in between sort of phase where we're not quite yet at robots do all the work and we can sit 24/7 on a beach side and sip from a coconut, which, by the way, there's a Flash Gordon episode I like, Return of the Androids, and essentially humans grew stagnant without purpose because they had servants that needed no food or rest. So ultimately, in layman's terms, we'd get like really bored if we didn't have to do like anything, and we would seek for something to do. But with this, people were, been worried about takeover for a long time with stuff. My mom pointed out Model T and blacksmiths and how they were worried about losing their jobs, but then new jobs working on Model Ts were made. So with robots and with AI, their new jobs will spring up, even though people are still worried that it's going to take over. And then one other thing with film going to digital, which I love, by the way, in digital editing, I don't have specific quotes for this. I don't remember who said what. If it's a bunch of things I heard that kind of formed this opinion, or if it's one person said something, or a few people said this specific thing. But I think a lot of them were worried about the quality of these films now that anyone could make anything with digital editing and more digital recording and like DV tapes that could be reused and all that stuff. They were worried about the quality not being as good, and not necessarily the video quality and look, like digital being worse than film back in the day, but the production quality and the acting quality. Like Tommy Wiseau's The Room. I haven't watched it, but hey, Tommy, you made something that makes me really proud. I'm really happy when I get to go make something. So good on you for that. You deserve some credit for actually going out and making something. But the few clips that I've seen and hearing people talk, it does kind of make sense that maybe you spent like too much money on it and the acting quality wasn't as good. I haven't watched it. I've just seen a few clips, so I don't know. But yeah, I kind of get where they're coming from, but you made something and that was cool. So there were some concerns about that with early stuff, but anyone being able to make anything led to the creation of new stuff we never thought of before, and a lot of people got really good, and now they make really good stuff. And you don't also need to have something that's 100% amazing production quality for it to be good enough for people to watch. So, with all of this, why is AI still controversial? It feels like, and maybe the exact timing is still about the same as complaints for the old stuff, but it feels like AI is causing more of a stir and people are complaining about it longer. Well, it's because of it's being trained on our work that we've already done, and more so the way that it copies stuff. Because in the past, if you were to copy things, you would have, like, you could tell sometimes when they copied, and sometimes it was fine. You were doing a similar camera shot to them, but enough of the other elements were different, and that's fine. Or music, you had some music that sounded similar, it was in a similar style, but it wasn't exactly the same. But then you could kind of also tell when it was in exactly the same copy, and there's been some disputes, especially within music, about who made what tune first and who has the rights and whatever. But ultimately, you kind of look at it and it ends up in, oh yeah, plagiarizing, we don't like that. Or no, they were transformative enough, they took inspiration, but they didn't just copy. But with computer, excuse me, the copying is different. The copying can literally amount to, oh, these look almost identical except for 5 pixels. It literally just straight over spat out the same pixels again. You can have that so much. And like, even if I wanted to take excuse me, even if I wanted to take someone's art and copy it, and I still did the work to bother to set up the lights and snap a photo that looked almost identical and like dress up my talent, or in film the same thing and copy it so much, which in that sort of era genre, sometimes you're copying to pass it off as your own, and that's not good. But then sometimes you're like trying to recreate a scene from a movie and make it look as close as possible to show that you can do it, and that's different. But that still involves a whole lot of effort. It's not a computer saying, here, you might as well just have 99% or 90% the original thing, but I'm going to claim that I generated it for you. It's just different. So, how do we fight this? How do we be successful when AI is creeping in and rapidly growing in the creative space, and many people say it's taking over? And what I'm about to say, I recognize will be a little bit tough if you're in a larger corporation, if you're in a place where the executives could choose to cut real people for AI. But with this, we have a lot of tools that help us fight AI. Like we have, Sora has a watermark in the corner, but yes, you can crop that out. I think Sony was working on a fingerprinting thing. I don't know if my camera has this, but essentially, some of the pixels in the image would be different than they normally would. We wouldn't see it with our eyes, but a computer could recognize those weird patterns and say, oh, created by a camera. Or, there's, I think, that same thing, but for the AI side of things, oh, generated by a computer. And I just remembered my Sony ZV-E1 has some AI stuff, but it's just to help the picture look good. It's not generating things, as far as I know. We also had I think it was called Poison Ivy, but it was the AI poisoning project, which essentially, going back to the thing from the Google ad, generate an image of a cat playing guitar, but if you poison the eye, then suddenly it thinks that eggs equals the word cat, and so it generates an image of an egg playing guitar. So there's all those efforts, but what I'm going to suggest that we do, what I think is the solution to all of this, doesn't require any of those. Oh, also, have I been trained? I don't think it works for video, but I know it works for photos. You can go there and type your name in and see if you've been trained with AI. I think I've put images in there as well. I've done it in reverse to put AI images in there and see if anything comes up extremely similar to said AI image. So you can be like, oh, this looks like this. It was probably trained off of this. I don't want to use it anymore. But I don't think we need those. In terms of trying to protect our content from being trained by AI and used without our consent, yes, and those efforts shouldn't stop. But in terms of being successful, especially when it comes to YouTube and just making content, I said it. Just make content. There is a Reddit thread that I'll try and have amongst the links down below where I asked this question, and no one directly said this, but they seem to sort of confirm my suspicion, and I think making content without AI should potentially be enough. Now, for me, I'm fine with some AI. When it comes to generation, again, it was trained on other people. I think that's questionable. I still think it's kind of cool. It lets people make stuff that they otherwise won't have the skills to make. And especially coming from a place where I try and be a jack of all trades because I'm a solo YouTuber at the moment. I kind of like that, but I get the controversy and I want to stay away from that mostly. But then in terms of the masking and like, here, AI, recognize person, cut them out, and allow me to do green screen without green screen and all stuff like that, I am totally fine with, and I am wholeheartedly looking forward to those tools coming to programs like Pinnacle Studio, which I use to edit. So I'm looking forward to that, but in terms of the other stuff, less so. So that's fine. And so, but then you're just making stuff, and with people making AI, and how do we compete? Again, just make stuff. So picture this. You have someone who makes AI-generated videos, and let's say they're able to pump out videos really fast, and they have one video a day or every other day. And let's say it's good stuff. And even if almost all of the audience knows that it's AI, they still like the content for what it is, then they will still watch that channel. But in terms of the person who is making one video a week or one video a month, and they're not using AI, and it's taking them a lot longer to make their videos, let's say that both of them are good quality, and people want to watch them. Well, the algorithm's job is to keep people on the platform hooked watching stuff. So I think YouTube is likely going to serve both. Yes, the person who is making one video a day, churning out stuff with AI, has a chance for potentially greater revenue because they have more videos, so therefore more ads can be served on their videos. So just by sheer volume, they have a chance to make more money from ad revenue. And yes, there are variables in terms of what type of content and how much money that type of content makes. But in terms of volume, they have more. Non-AI people have less. So, you might still need to have like a Patreon or other forms of support in addition to having ad revenue for this. But if your non-AI video is good quality entertainment or informative or whatever that people want to watch, and their AI generated content is content that people want to watch and will click views, then it's going to serve both, I think. And you'll have people who like the AI person and they'll watch them almost every single upload potentially. And then they'll also watch the once a month non AI person. I really feel like, especially at the moment, it is that simple. And now there are a few other things too. For example, there is content that AI will never be able to generate. I'm going to try and put that somewhere. I have a short on that. And then also, AI will not make cameras obsolete. I'm going to try and have those linked down below. So you should go check those out as well if you want some extra safety from AI. But just get out there and make stuff. And don't worry too much about competing with AI. And if you are using AI, take some consideration into the controversy behind it and generated stuff versus, again, just the helping you cut out and manipulate stuff, which I'm totally fine with, but the generation not so much. And thank you so much for watching. If you found this informative and you liked it, leave a like down below. And, go check those out. Go check out the other non-AI generated stuff that I do. I will say, transparency, I've used AI once to generate a few photos that I mixed together for a cover of one of my poems on Wattpad, and it is likely that I will use little bits of AI here and there in the future, but for now, I'm going to try and not use too much of it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in whatever's next. Bye!